let's jump right in. So let's go through our album rankings of Kiss albums from worst to best. At the bottom, we have Gene Simmons' solo album at number 13. At number 12, our most recent entry, Music from the Elder. 11, Hotter Than Hell. 10, Rock and Roll Over. 9, Kiss, the self-titled. 8, Love Gun. 7, Peter Chris' solo album. 6, Dress to Kill. 5th, Dynasty. 4th, Destroyer. 3rd, Paul Stanley's solo album. 2nd, Ace Frehley's solo album. And number 1, Unmoved. For 2 weeks.
What a list
I'm not sure. Unmoved. Hated by Kiss fans, loved by us. Well, not even loved. Probably not even loved, actually. Reasonably tolerated by at least 2 of us, which is a ringing endorsement. Unmasked. And I thought as well, actually, it might be a good idea to just have a little dip in the Kiss bin, open it up. This is a list of the worst Kiss songs so far, because I've been looking at this, and right up until we did Music from the Elder, pretty much all of these were Gene songs. I don't know if you knew that. Pretty much every single one was a Gene song until we listened to Music for the Elder. And in the Kiss bin, the worst from the worst, we have Going Blind from Hotter Than Hell, Love 'Em and Leave 'Em from Rock and Roll Over, Great Expectations from Destroyer, Love Theme from Kiss from the self-titled, Nothing to Lose from the self-titled, Kissing Time from the self-titled, Christine 16 from Love Gun, Plasticaster from Love Gun, Living in Sin at the Holiday Inn off Gene Simmons' solo album, When You Wish Upon a Star from Gene Simmons' solo album, Tunnel of Love from Gene Simmons' solo album, and Mr. Blackwell, The World Without Heroes, Only You and Odyssey from Music from the Elder. So, just, any sort of initial comments you guys would like to make about these Kiss bin entries?
I feel as though it shouldn't be surprising. I feel as though we have justified means for those Gene songs being in there. I feel as though we explain ourselves pretty well.
Oh, you mean off the solo album?
Yeah.
Oh no, just the fact that how much Gene is in the Kiss bin.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, something that strikes me is that there's the album with the most offenders is Music from the Elder, and that's not at the bottom. That's second from the bottom. And I think next to it, I think the second worst is the self-titled, and the self-titled is number 9. So I think that you can have enough sort of higher moments to maybe not justify being at the bottom. But anyway, we're not here.
The self-title's the most polarizing album we've had yet.
In what way?
As in, it's got a... Sorry, not polarizing. I don't mean that. I mean, it's got like the most
schizophrenic
high ratio between very good songs and very bad songs.
Exactly. Yeah. I guess the
hit and miss. I suppose it's the most hit and miss.
Yeah, I'd say it's the most. It's got the most diversity in terms of quality. As in, you can get very good, like Black Diamond and Strutter and 100,000 Years, and then just very, very bad, like Kissing Time. Anyway, we're not here to talk about those albums though.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about Creatures of the Night, the follow-up to Music from the Elder, and a bit of background on this album. After the Elder bombed, and it bombed badly, did not do very well, the band decided to get back to basics and make a heavier, more guitar-orientated album. Now, at this point, Ace is nowhere to be seen. He refused to go to the studio to record. Every time they tried to speak with him, he said he was working on his solo album. According to Gene, this was a clear signal that he wanted to leave the band, but for some crazy reason, this is his words, he says, but for some crazy reasons, they wanted to keep him in. I don't think that, one, the crazy reason is money. That's why they want to keep him in, because they realise that, he's part of the gravy train because of the makeup. And 2, he's been trying to, I swear, hasn't he been trying to leave for forever? I might have lost track, but I swear he's been trying to leave for 5 albums now. So how much more obvious does he need to be? How much more clear does he need to be at this point?
Yeah, I will give Gene and Paul a little bit of a bone on this. And again, they are the worst offenders when it comes to rewriting history, for sure. But I will say, hearing both Peter and Ace talk about, I've heard a few interviews, like many, many years down the line, and even they do seem to be a bit confused whenever they talk about it. You know, it's kind of, I did want to be in the band, but I didn't want to be in the band. You know, I think, I imagine, although I would probably overall be on team Ace and Peter when it comes to the sort of the tyranny of Paul Stanley and Gene, I imagine they were in many ways difficult to deal with and a bit insufferable.
Yeah.
And again, yeah, probably confused about what even they wanted. But you're right. He has been trying to leave for a while.
He's trying to leave forever. Also, like, you know, I understand, like, it's hard to, you know, let go of something when it's been such a huge part of your life for so long. Like, it is difficult. But at the same time, you know, if that's the case, then, you know, you'd at least show up, wouldn't you? If you were like, well, I'm not crazy about being in the band, but it's not something that I don't really want to let go at this point. So, you know, I might as well, you know.
But was this when it was clear that they were going in a harder direction in terms of like the music? Because without music for the Elder, it made sense that sort of him sort of Ace tapping out, saying, you know, this isn't for me, and really I don't want to be a part of it. But with the Samus album, do we know?
Yeah.
If they wanted Ace to be on this project?
Yeah, well, they wanted him on. They wanted him to play on the album, and the plan was to make it like a very, very heavy album, because Ace, it was really weird looking up background for this, because the sort of timelines of how things happened is really odd. So they were, I mean, I'll get to it in a bit, but they were like auditioning guitar players whilst he was kind of ostensibly still in the band and hadn't made a decision yet. He only made a decision that he was gonna leave after he didn't appear on the album. So it's really odd. It's really, really strange. But yeah, he knew he knew that it was gonna be like a heavier album, like something that he wanted to do. And actually, I've seen interviews of him where he has said that if Music from the Elder had been something more like Creatures of the Night, he would have been more on board for it, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, Paul went to Ace's house, and apparently Ace said he needed a solo career, and Paul said he could have both, but Ace simply dismissed it. Apparently, according to Paul, Kiss needed completely rebuilding, and that meant a complete break with the past. In this way, they decided to get rid of their old manager, Bill O'Coin. He's gone, and Paul even floated the idea of taking off the makeup. Gene didn't want to. He didn't want to take off the makeup, but they did agree that Bill had to go. To me, it makes perfect sense that Gene wouldn't want to take off the makeup, because he's got arguably the coolest makeup, one, and he relies so much more on the makeup.
Yeah.
Because Paul has so much more musical talent. As this album demonstrates, not to give too much away. As they got ready to make this album, they went looking for a producer. Now, not many were knocking on their door. This is partly due to the critical and commercial failures of Music for the Elder and Unmasked. He even said that a few of them were not even returning their calls when they'd leave messages, which is pretty sad. At last, they did find a producer, Michael James Jackson. Now, apparently, Michael James Jackson told them when they first met, he said this. This is a direct quote. He said, "What you guys need to do is to write some hit songs." Now, would you like to know what Paul Stanley wrote in his autobiography about this comment?
Go on. No shit.
Go on. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. He went, "Why didn't I think of that? Fucking brilliant." He said... He wasn't happy about it. He wasn't happy about it. He said... but he did say that he did like him very much. He said he was well-read despite that little insight. One of the things that James Jackson did is he suggested bringing in outside writers to help with the album. One of them was Bryan Adams of Bryan Adams fame, who co-wrote War Machine and Rock and Roll Hell. Incidentally, Eric Carr co-wrote the song Run To You by Bryan Adams. Didn't know if you knew that, but yeah, interesting thing.
Didn't know that.
Despite Ace sort of ostensibly still being in the band, they needed a guitar player to play solos on the album because he wasn't showing up. A few guitarists contributed solos on the album. Steve Farris from Mr. Mister, he was one of them, and he played on the title track. Richie Sambora from Bon Jovi came to audition, and according to Sambora, yeah, this is true. And according to Sambora, he never actually wanted the gig because he was interested in something a bit more blues-based. Now, would you like to know what Paul said about that comment? What sort of measured...
Then why did he join Bon Jovi?
That is very, very close. That is very, very, very close. He said... I doubt he came all the way to LA because he liked airline food. And then he also said, I like Bon Jovi, sure, but they don't exactly sit next to Howling Wolf in my record collection. So, you know.
Oh, he's just... he's shooting... There's shots in every direction,
Shot
Paul.
across
The wit on this guy, right?
He is. He is. Yeah, needless to say, you had the last laugh, Paul. Ultimately, a lot of guitar players played on Creatures of the Night. And not one of them sounds remotely like Ace. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree. Go on, Dad.
Absolutely fucking nothing.
No, it's just true that it's a completely different style.
It is.
Of guitar playing, completely.
How do you, without giving too much away, I remember, Danny, you said when we do Music for the Elder, you were like saying that, I think it was Dark Light when he did the solo, you were like, I think it's ready for a new guitar player. Because Ace is very much a kind of 70s blues, scrappy orientated, pentatonic guitar player. The kind of the Les Paul, where this is much more, Jackson, shreddy, dive bomb and stuff. Do you think? How do you think the change in style? What do you think it's without giving too much away? Do you think it's a pro or a con at this point?
Pro.
I completely agree. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, overall pro.
Yeah, no, I do as well.
Yeah, look, Alex is right. It's overall a pro. I was giving a simple answer. I think there's certainly room for arguments about uniqueness. You could certainly put forward an argument that the solos here are a lot less unique. Ace has a style, better or worse. He's got a signature feel to his solos. But especially with the type of songs that they're writing here.
It wouldn't have worked.
If Ace was still doing his old type of solos, no,
it would not have worked at all. I think that...
Do you think this album could have worked as a 5-piece? With
what do you mean?
The two.
Oh, that's
with
cool.
Ace.
I like that idea.
This setup with Ace included.
Not...
I'd love for them to try.
No, I can't think of a single track on it here, or at least a solo on here. Like, I'm not saying that I would have been like, Ace would have done that better, or Ace, I just think that if you had put him on it, it would immediately date it, and it wouldn't have worked. Like, no guitar players, so? at least in metal, and they're trying for like metal at this point, not so much hard rock, like metal, was playing like that at all. But in the same way that I don't think that like Richie Blackmore would have been a good choice either, or Jimmy Page. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that the people that they were looking at, like, well, I don't know. Actually, Slash, maybe he sort of plays in that style, but he still shreds. But it's a tricky one. But no, maybe it might have been interesting. Anyway, Gene felt that the fans couldn't cope with two members leaving in 2 years, so they put Ace's face on the front cover. This was in order to protect their fans. What are your thoughts on what are your thoughts on this, Nash? Because this is like, obviously this is the second time that we've seen this, because they did it on on Unmasked. What are your thoughts? Because I think that, sort of like Unmasked, where Anton Fig was playing the drums. It is very, 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 very clear that Ace is not playing on this at all.
Are you talking about just like sonically, or you mean like the album cover as well?
No, I mean, sorry. I mean, like, what do you think about them putting his face on the cover when it is very, very, very obvious,
okay.
and a lot like Unmasked, that it's clearly not him playing?
Yeah, I kind of. It's hard not to view this through like a 2024 lens, where like if something happened with a band, like a breakup or something that everybody would know immediately and everyone would be talking about it, it'd be very clear. But it's hard to really get what the fans were feeling at the time and how they're reacting and how much they knew. I think most fans would be doubting, like you say, Alexei, sort of like hear and go, something's not right. Again, they were so protective of the image. Well, I get why they wanted to keep Ace on here, but it is just lying to the fans, really. It is lying to them.
Danny, what do you think?
I do think, though, that the early 80s, the early 80s was a very different time, and it's pre-internet, and when you think of the age, generally, of their demographic at this point, it's probably all, or even more so than before, 14-year-olds. I think they could get away with it at the time, probably. But that's not me talking about, how ethical it is. Just why lie?
To protect the
that's
fan.
it. Really.
I don't believe it would affect album sales that much. Would it really affect album sales that much?
Well, it didn't because this sold very badly. Anyway, so it did not so well. So in the interim, they searched high and low for a new guitar player. Eddie Van Halen, apparently, according to Gene, actually asked to join at one point because he had had enough of Van Halen. David Lee Roth was driving him insane. So he actually, at lunch, asked Gene whether they would consider bringing him in. Now, according to Gene, Eddie was a promising and exciting idea to have in the band, but ultimately they wanted an unknown. I think that's fucking insane. I think it's either not true or insane. Like, and we're not talking like Van Halen were like a big band at this point.
Yeah.
Like a big band. And he was a very, 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 very well regarded guitar player. But you basically committed career suicide with your previous album. Like, just fuck it. And you've essentially got this guy who's one of the greatest guitar, he's already nearly cementing himself as like a legend. He's asking to join your band.
Mm-hmm.
Just take it. What could possibly go? You know what I mean? Just at least try it. It makes zero sense to me where they'd be like, okay, let's.
I don't think it's true.
It's got to be a lie. It's got to be a lie. What are you going to tell Eddie Van Halen? Nah, no, thank you. Nah, we're good. It's like he's one of the most popular guitar players in metal at the time, right? And your band is like sinking fast, right? And you're going to say no? That makes no sense to me at all.
I don't believe for a minute that Eddie Van Halen wanted to join Kiss. When you just say it like that, just can you imagine? Why would he want to join Kiss? He's Eddie Van Halen.
I know, innit? Like, after you've recorded a fucking...
It totally reeks of, like, they would have been at a party together or something, and then, like, they weren't talking music, and then Paul or Gene would have been like, oh, yeah, we should get together and just jam sometime. Like, yeah, sure, whatever. And you'd be like, oh, yeah, cool. Cool to jam with you guys. Just something really small like that. And then they took that as, Eddie's interested,
And then they all came...
Like, too scared to go anything beyond.
I think it's totally something like that.
Yeah. And then they all sat down with Eddie Van Halen afterwards and caught him really off guard, being like, Eddie, we've made a decision. We don't think you're right for the band. And he's like, what the fuck are they talking about? They're not making another concept album, are they? I don't want to do that. Fucking hell. Or he was like, maybe instead of playing an A sharp there, you should play like, an E. And they were like, oh my God, you want to join the band? Anyway. One of the contributing songwriters to the album was a guy called Adam Mitchell. And he recommended a singer-songwriter named Vinnie Cusano And although he didn't have, this is according to Paul, Paul said, although that Adam didn't have many nice things to say about Vinny as a person, he said he was a very talented singer-songwriter and his guitar playing style might fit Kiss. The first time Vinny Cusano auditioned, he got down on his knees and he did a guitar solo. Paul Stanley said, it was one of the goofiest things I'd ever seen at an audition. Paul said he seemed wrong somehow. He was odd-looking and shifty. But they were stuck and they...
So fucking mean.
Danny.
Such a bully, man.
Danny. Everyone, I'm not being funny, everyone that talks about Vinnie Vincent, he would change his name to Vinnie Vincent, sorry. Gave away a twist there.
Okay.
Everyone that talks about Vinny always comments on how strange he looks. I'm being 100% serious. I've got like a list of quotes of people around us who all said very, very strange things. I've commented on how odd he looks. He doesn't look that...
I've seen him. He doesn't look that
He looks
odd.
a bit weird. He looks a bit like the baby from Eraserhead.
Okay.
One time, someone asked Eric Carr in an interview what he think of Vinnie Vincent, and he said something like, "Oh, they're making ET2 and Vinny's up for the role," and I'm like, "Oh, come on." They all got bad for it.
He doesn't look that odd at all.
Fuck.
I'm looking at him now.
There's
He's got a bit of a
later,
feminine face. That's it.
There's one later on where Paul's like, we tried to get Vinny to wear a wig. He was very odd looking anyway, and his hair made him look like the Gerber baby.
What the fuck is going on? What? This band that's supposed to be all about like, oh, just be yourself.
Yeah,
They're just putting this guy down for no fucking reason.
Well, he does sound like quite a strange man, but despite his physical appearance, he seems like quite an odd.
Well, they make fun of that.
Oh, they do. They do it. Like they go on to say he's a terrible.
Okay.
It's kind of like he was an odd, selfish man, and he was very odd looking too, to boot. It's like sticking the knife in. Anyway, Gene told him. Oh, whilst we're on the topic, Gene told him. He was. Vinny would insist that he was right for the band. He'd already contributed a lot of solos from the album and some writing credits. He actually co-writes 3 songs on this album. But Gene, and he kept telling Gene, I belong, I want to be in the band. However, according to Gene, he told him that he was too short, he looked wrong, and he could not be in the band. His name was awful, and it's made him sound like a fruit vendor. There were also rumors that he was stealing equipment from the rehearsal space that they had. So, yeah.
Classic.
He would also do things like invite them to dinner and claim he'd forgotten his wallet. There was also a contract, an offer of employment for Vinny to sign, and he kept refusing to sign it. Instead, he wanted...
Gene is still fucking talking about that.
He is.
He is still in interviews mentioning that. Like, he never signed his contract.
I think stealing equipment's way worse.
Signed his contract.
He's like, you never once signed his contract. Whenever everyone's just like, it's like, all right, what do you think of Vinny Vincent? What's the relationship like with him these days? He always just says, Vinny never signed his contract. It was an offer of employment, not to be a member of the band. It's like, it's just always numbers in it. Anyway, so what we have here, I don't know if you guys agree, is a bit of a fox in the chicken coop. Would you agree?
What do you mean? Who is the fox in here? It sounds like
Vinny's
the
the fox.
How mean he is.
Vinny's being the fox.
Oh, okay.
He was stealing SM58s. Vinny wasn't the only problem going on. One day, Gene invited some school kids to the studio so they could sing on a track. Now, according to Paul, this is a deal that Gene had made with a Hollywood producer, and he said, if I let your kids and their friends sing on a track, it could be some potential browning points for me to get some acting work. Would you like to know?
Wait, not music for the elder? It was still...
No.
They ditched the elder? No,
it's for Gene to do some acting. Okay. He did end up doing some acting. He was in a couple of films. Did some acting in the end. Would you like to know what Paul had to say about this?
Give it.
I'll give it. He said, "The correct route was obvious. You studied acting and then you auditioned for parts." That's what he had to say. Anyway, once the album was done, they shot a video for "I Love It Loud" with Ace. Ace was actually in the video. They also went, yeah. They also went to Europe for some promotional lip synced performances with Ace. Apparently, the whole time Ace was very, very fragile and confessed that he was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. After that, he was gone for good, which makes him the second Kiss casualty that we've ever had. So, since he's gone at this point, I thought it'd be good to take this moment, as this is another Kiss casualty, to talk about, just what do you think Ace's highs and lows are, and what is his lasting impact and legacy? I'll throw it over to, I don't know, Danny, what do you think?
He's the coolest member of the band. I think we spoke about this a while ago.
Yeah, I agree.
And on stage, especially, again, pre-internet age, so you're not being filled with who they are, off stage. On stage, I've seen videos of them. He really is the coolest. He performs very well. And he fits Kiss as the rock star persona, area of who they are very well. Musically, of course, we've given him a bit of a hard time, especially near the start, I think, because we were just always saying that his solos are fine. They're fine. I think you could literally hear him get better throughout their career. Especially, not just as a guitarist, but also as, we hear more and more of his songs, which became, especially around the Dynasty Unmasked, especially Unmasked era, a lot of the best stuff. I thought, especially on Unmasked, a lot of the better songs were Ace songs. I think he, outside of the music, is really, I think I'll go on record, my favourite member.
Yeah.
He's just funnier.
Yeah.
He has a better sense of humour than the other members. And I wish he was my favourite member musically because of that.
He's the most likeable.
The tragedy is that the narcissist... Yeah. The tragedy is that the narcissist of the group really is the best songwriter. I think there's a theory to be made that Paul's more of a narcissist than Gene. Because he's so just in that role, isn't he? He's playing the bad guy so often that you don't even know what he thinks about anything. Or Paul really is a narcissist.
Yeah, I think
like a legitimate one.
I think whilst we're on that, Danny, having read both of their autobiographies or listened to the audio tapes on it, Paul is 100% way nastier than Gene is, and that pains me to say because I can't stand Gene, but Gene's a bit more self-aggrandizing and will exaggerate a lot of the great things that he did. Paul is just out for fucking blood on everyone, like everyone.
Yes. And so to bring it back to Ace, and one of the main things we spoke about it back then was, what's the name of that interviewer? That famous interviewer?
Tom Snyder.
Tom Snyder, is it? Yeah. Ace is so winning in that interview. And the fact that, Paul and Gene hate him for it, and he's sort of on this little team with Peter. I love that. And so his lasting legacy is... Well, I think he is... And I'm guessing here, but it's just based on observations. I think he's the fan favorite. I think he's the one that most fans say, oh, he's my favorite.
Yeah.
My favorite is Ace.
Yeah, definitely.
That's my little theory. Alex, what do you think about old Ace?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. For so long, Ace and Pete, for that matter, were like the breath of fresh air musically in the albums, where we got so used to the Gene and Paul songwriting style that even though they weren't brilliant songs, like when Ace gave it a go, it was always nice to hear his take, and he had a really cool voice, especially in those early albums. I really appreciate his style. And then personality-wise, he definitely was a breath of fresh air. Like you guys say in the interview. Even though we rated his solo album very highly, we have a lot of respect for it. I still feel as though we never got like that song from Ace, or like that defining moment from him. Like we always said, there's great potential there, and there's a lot to work with. But there's New York Groove, which was a big hit and stuff, but that wasn't really an Ace song, you know, Alexei?
Well, it's weird that you said that, like, you never got that defining moment from him. I actually think that we did. I think the solo in Dr. Love is like a 10 out of 10 solo. It's like a fucking brilliant guitar solo. The song itself is fucking rubbish, but like his guitar solo on it is absolutely fucking brilliant. I think that alone is a high point. For me, it's kind of interesting, like, talking about him in comparison to Peter, because I actually think Peter, in terms of highs, has a lot more higher points than Ace does, because he's a really good singer. And I think that Ace's solo album was an admirable attempt, and I respect what he was doing there. But yeah, just same really. Just like, again, great, fantastic stage presence, one of the fan favorites. And I think as well, in terms of his impact and legacy, I do think that unlike Peter, he was a very influential figure. He was an influential guitar player and inspired a lot of players. So yeah, and however, in terms of like, not so much low points, just again, just not the greatest songwriter in the world. I mean, like Danny said, at best you've got things like Talk to Me, some of the stuff that he was doing on Unmasked. But yeah, I think Danny made an interesting point. I think that you always wanted him to be better than he actually is. Not to say there aren't, like, some moments of brilliance, but actually I don't even think that those moments of brilliance come close to like Peter, when Peter was on, but
and we could just hear that he was tired towards the end as well. Like you say, like Talk to Me, and what was the other song, Torpedo Girl. Like for me, these were just really. He was he was at the end of like the amount of effort he was going to give for this band.
I really like Talk to Me.
I really like Talk to Me, and I like Torpedo Girl. I like both of those songs.
No, he's dead. What was the one he did for Music for the Elder?
I think
Didn't he submit one?
Which one?
Oh, Dark Light.
Oh,
Dark Light.
Yeah,
that was bad.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah, that one's not
Ace,
good. I think we see more improvement. We see more improvement in Ace than Peter. Peter, I feel like he's as good on the last album he's on as he is there self-titled.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, Ace, right? We want Peter to show up, rasp it up with his beautiful voice, and that's it, really. And add he's got some sort of cat-like charm to him that I couldn't begin to describe. but Ace, we really see, like, he was even too shy to sing on the early albums.
Yeah.
So we really had little to go on the early albums. It was just him doing these double stoppy solos that he does that are very passable. Well, I feel like more and more we would say, Ace is really killing it on this one with his solo. Especially towards the end, he's trying to pick up tapping and stuff. Which, again, I said it before. I saw an interview with him claiming that Van Halen watched him do that, and so maybe he learned it off me. Which is just
bollocks. Yeah,
I don't know, Ace.
I'm not sure about that.
I don't know, Ace. Even now, when I see interviews with them, the modern day members of the original lineup, he's still the most likable. So Ace gets a thumbs up from me.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, with Ace, there's definitely much more of a self-awareness with him than there is with the other two. Do you know what I mean? Like, he kind of understands it's a bit silly and a bit ridiculous and stuff. Like, he's not trying to say that he never tries to claim he like changed the world or anything like that. He's just kind of more like there's a great story apparently about when they did Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, and apparently during the premiere of it, Paul and Gene were just sinking in their seats and was so embarrassed by the film, but Ace was just in the front laughing his head off. He thought it was the most hysterical thing he'd ever seen in his life. And he was like just in tears of laughter watching
That's
it.
so much better.
I just love that. I love that. It's great watching interviews of him talking about it. It's fantastic. But Ace, you know, you will be missed. But I think Danny made a good.
I'll miss him.
Danny made a good point. It was time for another guitar player, and I do think you're all right, actually, Danny, in terms of like more and more. I'd be saying like, song's a bit shit. Good guitar solo though. Nice guitar solo. And also, I do remember saying about his solo album that there was a vibe to his solo album. It's kind of more kind of spacey, ethereal, kind of hard rock thing that I wish he'd pursued more and tried to follow that sound a little bit, particularly with the sort of like kraut rocky kind of fractured mirror at the end. I was like, I really wish because it wasn't a perfect album, no, but I was like, I was interested and I would have liked to have heard a follow-up in that vein that he'd spent more time on. But sadly, we never really got that.
Is Fraley's Comet like that?
No, it took him forever. I'm pretty sure it came out like quite a while afterwards. I think it came out like eight years after he left the band or something like that. I need to look it up. But now it's kind of more just like, I want to say hair metal, maybe. It's definitely more metal, 80s metal infused. When did it come out? I want to know. 1984, so 4 years after this came out. Yeah, again, just a lot more kind of like, 80s metal influenced. Anyway, Ace, you shall be missed. But back to Gene, Paul, and Eric. They had a tour to start, and they needed a replacement. So, against their better judgment, they decided to go with Vinnie Vincent. Apparently, Paul told Gene, this is a bad move. Vinnie wanted to change his name to Mick Fury. Would you like to know what Paul said about that?
It was ridiculous or something.
Why did everyone come up with cartoon names? Because you look like cartoon characters, maybe. 2 albums ago, you had a comic strip as your front cover.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake. Anyway, they didn't go with Mick Fury. Instead, they picked Vinnie Vincent, which is nice and boring, how they like it. Paul came up with Vinnie's Egyptian Ankh makeup. Or some people also call him the warrior, the Egyptian warrior. Some people call him the wizard. It's a bit confusing. Kind of makes you think that maybe they hadn't really, they didn't put much time and effort into the concept of his makeup. However, what do you guys think?
Bit rushed.
Yeah. What do you guys think of his makeup?
I think it's shit.
Great,
I gotta agree.
It's the gold. But the gold on the white, it's not even the same style as the other members. It does not fit at all. It looks so greasy. I mean, and especially on his weird fucking looking face. Come round to that argument now. I'm joking. But I do think it looks really fucking bad. I do think it looks bad.
They're definitely going through the motions with that one, aren't they? Really. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't it doesn't match his face away, or it kind of like shows how long his face is. It feels rushed compared to others. I know it was, by what we've heard from Paul, that like it was a rushed design. And yeah, it's kind of like you look at it and you're like, okay, like what does that mean in terms of like a persona or kind of attitude from this guy? It's not very clear. How about you, Alexei?
Yeah, I think that it doesn't do, because it gets bigger. The Egyptian symbol on his face is kind of big at the top and then it goes down, which again, I agree with Danny, kind of highlights his fucking E.T. shaped head. Doesn't really work. It's really horrible. Also, I get the gold. It doesn't really work. Kind of just like it's been kind of shotgun blasted onto his face. Yeah, it just I don't know. Yeah, like you said, it just doesn't really gel with the rest of the band.
It looks slimy.
It does look slimy. It's shiny. The rest of the makeup, because it's got gold on it.
Yeah,
it makes his head look shiny.
Yeah,
moving on. What Paul had to say about Vinny at this point is that he was a brilliant player, but but couldn't self edit. According to Paul, he said Vinny didn't understand context. He was way too showy, and during the tour, he used his solo spot to play forever and ever and ever. His solos became, according to Gene, ungodly long. The tour bombed very, very, very badly. Apparently, according to Eric Carr, The Elder actually sold better than Creatures did, but Wikipedia disputes that, so I'm not really sure. At first, they blamed the poor concert attendance on promoters, but not long after they had to face the fact that the fans hadn't forgiven them for the past 2 albums. Arenas were empty, and this sent Paul into a deep, deep depression. Do you want to know how Paul coped with the depression? What did he turn to? You know, what was his vice? What was his, coping strategy? Would you like to guess?
Ooh, that's a good question.
What would
It'd be something really actually really lame and boring. You'd be like, I looked to the president.
I don't know what he does.
The president at that time.
Outside of the crowd.
He gave a rising speech.
Oh, no, not something to cheer him up. Kind of like a vice, you know what I mean? An unhealthy habit to help him cope with the depression. No? I can tell you.
No idea.
I'll tell you.
No idea.
He slept a lot.
Oh. Oh, okay.
He said he slept. He sometimes slept in his makeup. He sometimes slept whilst he's putting on his makeup. He said it would take the road crew quite a long time to wake him up. So we sort of be like, where am I? Anyway, the press relished this. They relished the downfall of Kiss. In one interview, Paul was asked, "How does it feel to be on the Titanic?" In another interview, in another interview, the journalist said, "How does it feel to be dying?"
It's not even fucking funny.
It's not, no.
What does it feel like to be dying?
Got him.
Anyway, so this gets released, and Gene and Paul once listed their favourite Kiss albums of all time. And do you know what they were, if you could guess what they were?
Favorite Kiss albums, was that? Sorry?
Yeah. Paul and Gene once listed their 3 favourites, their 3 favourite Kiss albums. Would you like to hazard a guess?
Ooh, Dave.
Dress to Kill, Destroyer, and Love Gun.
I'm guessing the debut. They'll have love for their debut at this time.
No.
Oh, okay.
One of them we haven't covered yet. So it was, they said Destroyer. So Danny was right with one. Destroyer, definitely. Album called Revenge, which came out way down the line. Got a while till we get to Revenge. And this is one of their favourites. And that goes for the fans. It got good reviews when it came out. And this is kind of considered a fan favourite. Now, interestingly enough, I asked my mum, this is years ago, for 2 Kiss albums, right, for Christmas. The 2 she came back with was this and Crazy Crazy Nights. So I know this album quite well, relatively well. Anyway, I haven't listened to it for a very, very, very long time. So I'm going to try to go into this as sort of objectively as possible. And I'm trying to look here without, trying to get too nostalgic about it. But what struck...
I think it's okay if you want to get nostalgic about it. I mean, it'd be nice perspective on what probably the key demographic was at this time.
Yeah, well, not at this time. Well, yeah, I know what you mean. I thought, I think I must have been 12 or 11 or something like that. And the first thing that struck me about it was the cover. Because I was like, who's that guy? Referring to Eric Carr. So, whilst we're on it, what do you guys think?
Look at him.
In it, I was like, who the fuck is that guy? I had it all mixed up. When I was younger, I thought they started out without makeup and then put makeup on. So when I was listening to stuff like this, I thought this was like one of the first albums, and then I thought something like Rock and Roll Over came afterwards. So even then, I would listen to Rock and Roll Over and go like, God, this sounds older. Why does this sound older? I don't know, it didn't make any sense. Like, anyway. So, what do you guys think about the cover? What are your feelings? Danny, what do you think?
I hadn't thought about it. It's very blue. And,
Certainly got a lot of blue.
Yeah, it's fine. It matches the title. It's a bit too over the top for me with the eye effect that they're doing, and they're all pulling the serious face, except Eric, who's kind of it looks like he's smiling a bit. I don't know if that's the makeup.
Got a little cheeky
It looks
smile.
like he's doing a cheeky little smile. Ace looks out of it. Paul is taking it way too seriously. Once again, the lack of symmetry. Whereas usually I'm not someone who cares about that. But something about when Kiss fuck up and make it all asymmetrical, and just the framing's so weird.
Eric looks like the main guy, doesn't he?
Paul's chin. Yeah, it looks like that's true. It looks like they're all accompanying Eric.
I think Paul
on this front
Paul
cover.
should have gone at the top, definitely.
Yes, but you know what? I'm being harsh. They've had much worse than this. This is fine. Like I say, it matches the title, Creatures of the Night. Alexei, what do you think?
I think it works quite well. Yeah, I kind of agree with a lot of what you said. I think that obviously it's most similar, at least in concept, to Dynasty, right? Because it's just the four of them on the front, united and together. However, I do think this is a lot better than the Dynasty front cover. I think it's a lot more striking. I quite like the kind of dark blue, purpley thing.
Yes,
that's going on. It makes them look a lot cooler, a lot darker. I quite like the eye glowing a little bit. I think it's subtle enough. I think to me it's just subtle enough not to be kind of too overpowering and too over the top.
that's fair.
I really like the font. I don't know why on Creatures of the Night. I also think that other than Ace's solo album or maybe Paul's solo album, I think this is the most synergy between a cover and the music that we've had yet. I do feel that with this, I wouldn't necessarily feel like I'd been shortchanged stylistically, like compared with Rock and Roll Over or even Destroyer, because Destroyer looks like quite a heavy cover. I feel like this definitely feels the most consistent.
Good point.
Yeah, I feel this is definitely the most consistent with the music. Like,
I agree.
Like, again, not to give too much away, when I got this and I put it on, because I listened to this before I listened to Crazy Crazy Night, because this had them in makeup on it, without Peter, and then it comes in with the title track, like spot on in my opinion, like in terms of what you want from the band, and the music, like spot on. But we'll get into that in a second. It's quite it's quite broadly, it's quite dark. I think as well that the name Creatures of the Night is a great name. I think it's a really, really, really good name that really makes the cover sort of pop. Yeah, it's simple. It's all right. Like Daddy said, it's been way worse, but it serves the purpose fine. Alex, what do you think?
I'll go a bit step. I think this is a good cover for what you guys saying. Like, it is really striking and it stands out. The eyes are tacky, but I think for this cover it works. Same with the pink writing, the pink font like really sticks out, and it's something a bit different. Have you guys seen the music video? I think it was for
I Love It Loud.
No, Love It Loud. Did you see the eye makeup used there?
No, I've not seen it. I haven't watched it. No. I haven't watched it.
Oh, at the end of the music video, they're like, everybody is becoming creatures of the night sort of thing. Like, everybody is, and they all have, the way they've done it is they all have these eyes, and they painted their eyelids, and so everyone's walking with their eyes closed, but it looks like their eyes are open and they're glowing, and it looks terrible.
Oh, I've seen that. I've seen a clip of that.
Terrible.
It looks so fucking weird.
That sounds fucking weird.
It looks so derpy.
Yeah, it really does. Oh, okay, check that out after. But yeah, I think the cover, the lack of symmetry aside, and all of that, I think it, like, you're interested, and like you were saying, Alexei, it fits the music better than almost all the albums we've listened to previously. So yeah, thumbs up.
Yeah, definitely. Let's get in to the album. Now, I would like to start. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Title
Please.
track, Creatures of the Night. This is an absolute banger. This is a front to back 10 out of 10 fucking banger. It's got a great fucking drum fill in the beginning. The intro, the drums sound thunderous. Eric is miles ahead of Peter in every single way. Now, even though the drums do sound very roomy and very wet, they never seem to get, never get that muddy, which is, a risk you have because obviously this is like a much faster track, but it never kind of feels, there's just enough attack on it for it to punch through. The playing is tight as fuck. There's so much more fire in the belly with this. And as like a statement of intent for the album, this absolutely fucking smashes it. Like, it's the perfect kind of heavy for this band. Because you need to remember, like, we want heaviness out of them, but it's not like Celtic Frost. It's not like Slayer. You don't want to go too heavy. You want goofy, campy, heavy. You want Accept, you want Iron Maiden, you want Judas Priest, you want Crocus, you want shit like that, Saxon. You don't, like I said, you don't want Celtic Frost. You just want, theatrics and riffs out of a band like this. And it goes hard on all those fronts. Mainly, as well, because the most praise I have for this song goes right to Paul fucking Stanley. I think this, and the album in general, he has something to prove. I feel with this album, he has something to prove. And I think that, on this track, he sounds like he's spitting venom. Like, there's so many great raspy moments. He's just biting into these lines. And there's a lot of dynamics as well in his vocal delivery. He's not just like going for broke on every single line. He knows how to enunciate certain lyrics to make it a lot more dramatic. Those raspy lyrics, those really raspy deliveries really, really sell the lyrics, which are like complete nonsense. The lyrics mean absolutely nothing, but the way he just snarls through them is fucking fantastic and lifts it. Like, there's one line where he goes breathing in the madness, spitting out the lies, and he just does it with so much fucking tenacity and nastiness. It's I was just like, that's so nice, that's so tasty. Like, essentially this is what I've always wanted them to sound like, and in a way, if let's say if I were a producer, I'd be like, you need to show me, be heavy. Show me you being heavy. I want to see it. Come on, let's deliver. And they turn around and they showed this to me. I'm like, you did it. You smashed it. You proved me wrong. Like, all the time we kind of listening to these albums going like, God, they're just not heavy. They're not heavy. They're not right. And I think it goes completely contrary to that. I think this is them showing like, all right, you want us, we'll show you. We'll show you us being heavy and raw and fiery. And this is them doing it. The other thing that makes this so welcome is that we miss these vocals from him on The Elder. And, not to give too much away about the album, but front to back on this album, he's giving us those raspy, snarling, great vocals. In general, this is him at his best. I think that in terms of 80s, like, mainstream metal music, this is some of the best of the genre, this song. Absolutely.
Wow.
This is, I think, along with another song on this album, I actually think this is the best song we've had. Yeah, like up there over 100,000 years. If we did an opposite of the Kiss bin, this would 100% be in there. This is fucking fantastic. Anyway, Alex, what are you saying?
Wow. Well, okay. I agree with you in the sense I love the energy of this track, especially starting off the album. It reminds me a lot of listening to Detroit Rock City for the first time, and it's been like a really great punch and great introduction. I agree. I like Paul's contribution here. I think the lyrics work, and like the sort of atmosphere he's creating with Creatures of the Night exactly what you're saying earlier, Alexei, about how it fits with the cover, and I think that's always a great moment when like you have an idea of what an album's going to be, and you play that first track, and it like scratches that itch, if you will. But you talk so much about Paul. It's really not what I was focused on when I listened to this. It was just how different it sounds from what we've had previously, mainly in the drums and the guitar work. Really different sound coming. I put very kind of Iron Maiden-esque, and I think that comes from like the very sort of chugging sort of guitar riff. And I'm not sure how I feel about the drums. I went back and forth in it on different listens. Sometimes it would be so roomy and so muddy and wet, like you're saying. And in other times, I think it depends what I was listening to them on. Like it sounded all right.
Can I just say the drums on this album are a source of contention for a lot of people. Some people think they sound fucking amazing. Like, some people think they sound fucking amazing, and some people just think, they just think they sound kind of like too muddy, too low endy, not enough attack and stuff like that. To be honest with you, it is it is actually quite a unique sound for drums. So if you were like, I didn't like it, I'd be like, it's fair enough.
It's so different to what we had with like Peter. Really, on those albums. It went because I listened to this in earphones, headphones, and on my speaker as well a little bit. Yeah, it really went back and forth in it. Yeah, this is a good track though. This is a good track. One nitpick is the backing vocals. I can hear like it sounds really cool, but it feels really like weak and thin in the mix. It actually sounds like they're playing like a synth. Like they're playing like...
I think it might be.
I think it is a synth.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
Because it
sound. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Maybe it's coming off music from the Elder, where like had this like grand sort of choir stuff, and it sounds very thin and weak. Even though I do like what they're trying to do with it, it didn't quite connect. So I thought it was a really good track. Again, and I think it'll probably come up with a lot of these songs. The mixing and stuff and the sound they're going for, I do struggle with it sometimes. What do you think on that, Danny?
Right. Well, of course, general agreement. The first thing I wrote is, fuck yes. This is all we were ever asking for. Especially, like, I'm talking about the start of the track. The guitars, the drums, the sound, Paul's vocals, of course. Paul's vocals are great. Even his like vocal delivery is more metal. He's very. I thought the way he says "night" is very Dio-like. That kind of night, like he's articulating
very
it
dramatic,
like a metal singer, and it sounds fantastic. Very over the top and dramatic. It's great. I put Alex. I put spooky synth choir in chorus is good. I like that. The sort of sound. I think is good. The drums. There was a difference on subsequent listens on this, because the first listen I just put drums sound massive, so 80s. I did go on to say it's all a bit wet for me. It's still good. It does still chug. I'm with Alexei on that. This track, more than others, if I'm honest, has still got the chug. And I want that. It still sounds heavy to me. It's not all just washed away and muddy. I don't love this production. It's so not the sort of production I love. But in a way, compared to their previous stuff, I mean, it's better and worse than their previous stuff. But you would have to overall say better, I would say, with all of the problems that come with this mix, especially. I was wondering, like, maybe I don't know exactly what else was out at the time, because at first I was thinking it's quite ahead of its time, because throughout the 80s you just get more and more of that, just ridiculously loud gated snare sound that just dominates, especially going into, well, not just synth pop, but also all of the hair metal that they're really looking forward to now. They have been for a while. But we can get onto that later. I was also thinking, see, Alex, I don't think it sounds like Maiden to me. Maybe you were just saying about the size of it, just the grandiosity. But to me, Maiden have a much more raw, and I say raw, but then at the same time clean. Like, there's the production of early Maiden albums.
Yeah,
that's all. We've already had that at this point, so that's when I started to question whether the production is ahead of its time, because those Maiden albums sound better to me. But then, why am I comparing it to Maiden? Where was I? flashy licks everywhere. I was loving the guitar work, especially on this song again. I did say, and this becomes a theme for me, the middle eight is very boring until the solo goes off, and then it's great. They just love these pointless little riffy breakdowns before the solo. I don't know why they do that. So many bands do that. Lordi do that. I don't know why.
Yeah, Lordi do it as well. But the thing is, like, about the pointless kind of middle eight. I agree that the middle eight is like the weakest part of the song. But usually with them, or at least a lot of the time, particularly with the earlier albums, it's the reverse, where the middle eight's usually better. The middle eight's usually one of the best bits. So, it's just a saving grace that which is not a long bit of music. It's not, doesn't really go on for that long. Is the weakest bit. I'm just happy that it's the other way around for once.
Okay, I can see that. I knew this track, and it's unlike most tracks. It's not because it was on a best of that I had. I knew this because of you, Alexei. Early, maybe the first time I went to your house, you played me this album. Oh, I guess you didn't play me the album because I only know this track and the last track. The only two I remember.
Right.
And so I do have a little bit of nostalgia for this one too. It's great. I think it's close to the best we've had yet as a track. I'm not sure I'd say it is, but it's definitely way up there. It's way up there. Also, I don't know if this is the right time to talk about it, but it made me think about it. I saw the quote, this relates to what we were saying earlier, of Gene saying Ace was right in regards to the musical direction on Music from the Elder. And again, it's just that sort of weirdness that the moment they finally make an album that Ace was asking to make, he's not on it. And frankly, we don't even think that he'd be able to step up to it.
No, he wouldn't. No.
This track especially made me think that, yeah.
No, you want shreddy dive bombs.
Anyway.
That's the thing. You want shreddy, you want dive bombs, you want tapping, you want shit like that. You don't want like pentatonic bluesy shit. Not on this.
No, not on this. No. It's a great track. It's a really good chorus. It's a hook.
Yeah, it's sick. It's sick, and he's amazing on it. I do admit that as well that I do have a huge bias towards that track because you need to remember, like I was saying earlier, like you get the album, you put it on, and this just comes in like a fucking sledgehammer. It's great. Particularly, again, you talk about
it's a great opener.
Yeah, you talk about the demographic. Compare it to like I don't know, like I want you or something like that. That opened rock and roll over. Like, it's just it's just not even close. Or is that you off Unmasked or anything like that? But yeah, good start. Great opener. Saint and Sinner. Okay. Who wants to go first on this? Alex, what do you think?
Okay, yeah, so on the first listen, my first note was, oh, the whole album sounds like this sort of thing. Again, still getting used to like this change in sound. And then we get Gene's take on it. And actually, I'll say it's not too bad. I think Gene's voice doesn't... I think his voice fits okay with this sort of production. And it masks some of his flaws quite well. Again, I think it's so interesting to hear like this rhythm work coming from the bass and the guitar. It really changes the feel of the songs, and very 80s, kind of like we were saying, Danny, especially the way the drums sound. And I very much wonder what the dynamic of the band is at this time, because I'd say like I can sort of hear that the guitar work is there to complement Gene and Paul through a lot of these tracks, and I wonder if that's because the dynamic is very different, where you have Gene and Paul who they're really in charge of everything and they're just giving directions to these guys. Well, maybe Ace would have like fought back a little bit, or they would have allowed Ace to take more control. Here again, I just put a lot of compliments about the guitar work. The verses in particular are good. I'm not so sure about the chorus in this one. However, I think Gene writing a breakup song, because that's what this is when you look at the lyrics, this is a breakup song, he's done pretty well. Like, usually when it comes to women, he's pretty derogatory, but this one, I thought he did it in a fairly mature manner. So, always trying to give the benefit to Gene here. It's not a great song. And it's way too long, almost 5 minutes. Really, there's not enough content here for 5 minutes. But I think it sort of keeps it. It doesn't ruin the momentum like so many Gene tracks do on other albums, where you get like a great Paul song and then Gene comes in and it's completely different. I think that continues that. Don't have that much more to say on it, honestly. Alexei, what about you?
You've been. I think you've been a bit more positive than I am. When I got this when I was younger, after the title track, I was like, oh. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, oh, okay. But, you know, I just really underwhelmed by it and disappointed as well getting Strutty. However, now, more in hindsight, getting older, I think that the bass tone is good. I like the bass tone. It's kind of very bright. It's very trebly, but there's enough kind of low end in it, you know, from keeping it from being too anemic. For the most part, I think Gene just wrote the same song like 5 times on this album, but with slightly varying quality. Do you know what I mean? I feel like he sort of treads the same waters like throughout the album.
So,
yeah, I think so. I think that this isn't shit. At least for Gene, it's not shit. It's okay. Like there's just not really a lot to hang on to. Like I just remember being like quite disappointed when this used to come on. Like after
it is very
title
forgettable.
Track,
It really
following
is.
the title track. Like, you know, it's just kind of completely perplexed by it. And although in general I do think that Gene's songwriting on this album is like the strongest it has been so far on any album. It doesn't even touch Paul's on this, not even close. Like the outro is okay. The chorus just I don't really think does anything. For Gene it's an improvement, definitely, but ultimately, you know, I just don't get very much out of it. I get very, very little out of it, but I do agree the guitar work is pretty sick. Danny, what do you think?
What do you guys think of like the solo on this, on like all these styles of solos? Because it's so different to Ace's, in my opinion. Danny, what do you think of that?
I think it's a nothingy solo. I think the fade out solo is more on it, but it fades out.
Yeah, that's it. I like the outro.
The solo itself is yeah. I mean, I'm more with Alexei. Alex, you made some very good points, and I did write, for a Gene song, I wrote a lot of positives. But, like, again, I'm going to emphasize, like I always do, as soon as he starts singing, it was just the feeling of some things never change.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. He cannot do hooks. The verse is so much better than the chorus on this song.
Yeah, I agree.
The verse is pretty, for Gene, very good. Mixolydian suits him. I feel like I mentioned Mixolydian a lot, but what it is because usually this band writes in just pentatonic blues. Sometimes they'll do like a sort of natural minor thing, like with Creatures of the Night. But every now and then, especially Gene, they'll do a Mixolydian song, and it suits Gene especially well. It's better than plod blues, this song. This is not a plod bluesy type of song. I think that's what we like about it. But it does bring that bluesy sound a bit back in the chorus, and it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit with the verse, even.
Don't you think the vocal melody...
Yeah, go on.
Don't you think the vocal melody in the chorus just does not fit the music at all?
No, nothing. It's just, like I said, he can't do hooks. It doesn't fit the music, and it doesn't even fit... the chorus doesn't follow from the verse. I'm afraid I put... It's just Gene with more reverb. And I want to talk about the mix in that way, because, Alex, you were talking about how you were still thinking about, like, the mix and stuff, but to me it was extra noticeable on this track, because it really was just, like, he had not updated his songwriting barely at all, but suddenly it sounds totally different just because of the production and the mix. So it does sound very different. I put this song as like 50% snare. The whole song. It's just a fucking snare. This song is so fucking loud. He hits an impressive high at the end. I think we have to start to admit that maybe it's not all session singers, and that he apparently can hit, I will call it a good high. He hits at the end. Oh no, it wasn't at the end. Was it at the end? I forget where it was. But anyway, he does some nice vocal riffing at the end. Again, for Gene, these are big compliments.
Yeah,
but just overall, again, Alexei, I think you hit the nail on the head about coming after the first track.
Yeah, not good
it's
enough.
bringing back old Kiss ways, and even if he's making tiny bits of progress, we said similar things about Gene before. The progress is not fast enough, and I feel that on this track. Let's move on.
Yeah, like if you compare it to like Naked City, for example, it's nowhere near as good as Naked City.
I think I disagree with that. I didn't like Naked City.
Oh, really?
But Naked City.
See, I think that was a banger. Anyway, keep me coming. Another Paul one. Danny, what do you think?
It starts off with a very busy riff, and I mean that in a good way, and I wouldn't always. It's a very sort of hair metal, busy, there's a lot going on. I even thought that if the solo section was a bit more batshit, like the solo itself, this could kind of be a Living Colour song.
That's a good
that
shout.
snapshot at that moment.
Yeah.
Right, do you know what I mean? Especially with the production.
Yeah. I didn't think about that. Such a living colour riff, actually. Yeah, no, good shout.
He's singing in a very high register here, even for Paul. It's very high. And overall, I just wanted to like this song more. I was not sure about the chorus at all. He's trying very hard vocally, and it's just too silly. The sort of "come here" sound that he's doing isn't working for me. It's got a very awkward bridge. I mean, of course, his vocals are mixed because they're still impressive, but just the weird thing he's doing in the chorus, I don't like. There's another pointless middle eighth breakdown. And it's the first use of the word exhausting on this album, and we're only on track 3. I will give it that that's probably more to do with listening fatigue from the mix and the production than previous albums. The exhaustion would have been from. It is just this album is so full on with the drums and just the wetness, and this sort of "Can we come?" It sound just all at once. It's just a lot, and it is a bit fun. The last thing I wrote is I am so interested in Paul, and that's all I wrote. Just as a person, I'm so interested in him. I want to know everything about Paul. So Alex,
he'll tell you if you ask him about that.
That's true. Yeah, but he'll lie.
On first listen, I was kind of into this one because there's kind of like a cool groove to it, and especially that intro. Like I say, Paul's vocals, he's really going for it, but it does kind of grate on you. And it's been a while since we've had a rapey song, and we're getting it here with Paul though. Like as soon as I listen to the lyrics, it is. Oh, this one really says tingles down your spine. Each little bite lets me know that you're ripe. Like, stuff like that. It just... Oh, and like, I think at one point he's like, "You sweet little girl." Like that. And it just... Oh my God. So, on that, yeah, takes away a lot of points. Also, the pre-chorus. I have no idea what he's saying. It's like the... It's so unclear, which is really unlike Paul. So I on repeat listens, I really wasn't into this one. It was always ones I kind of wanted to skip, even though I can hear that energy coming from Paul, like we get from a lot of this album. But this song just becomes grating, and yeah, the lyrics just turn me off. Alexei, what do you think?
I think this is another absolute banger. I think it's got. I think this has got a great intro with the dive bomb. There are a lot of nice little sort of moments like that on a lot of Paul songs on this, which show that he's put a lot of thought and effort into the music that he's made. Not so much the lyrics, because the lyrics on this are just shocking, but the music definitely. The verse has sort of a nice Zeppelin-esque groove. They all sound tight as fuck and full of piss and vinegar, which is nice.
Yeah, they do sound tight. Yeah.
The pre-chorus, like, I really like the pre-chorus. I think that like these nice little palm mutes in a sort of like little minor key, which I didn't expect, at least for a song like this. I think it works together quite well. I think that kind of keeps it sounding a little bit darker, which is nice.
I agree.
Again,
It's just from Paul's part though. It's just like so. Unclear and a bit like unlistable. That
what is vocals?
Like the lyrics.
The lyrics. Yeah, the lyrics are fucking rubbish.
Yeah.
But like, but again, I think Paul's killing it vocally. I think like the lyrics are so fucking stupid, but I don't think that's the point. I think it's just meant to just be like a headbanger, and I think it does that very, 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 very well. But yeah, another banger for me. Again, though, I will caveat.
See, would you call this a headbanger? I'd say it's more like
definitely. It's a sick riff. It's such a good riff. Anyway, track number, is it 4? 4, 5? 4. I think it's 4. Rock and Roll Hell.
Yeah.
This is
Number 4.
This is number 4. Okay, this is probably my second favorite Gene song. I think that on this album, not in general, on this album. Instrumentally, like, the first verse with just the bass and the minimal drums, I think does sound quite atmospheric and quite nice. It's got a sort of like running with the devil sort of vibe to it by Van Halen. But I think the production helps that quite a lot. However, his warbly fucking vocals just shit all over it. Like, it's kind of nice little atmospheric boom, 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 and it holds your attention quite a bit. And it's like, you're like, oh, here we fucking go. Like, it's just, it's like, you're only as strong as like your weakest part, and I think that does bring it down quite bad. Quite badly. The chorus is kind of relatively anthemic. Yeah, just not much from me, really. I just think in comparison to Paul's songs, it just sounds very, very dull. Very, very dull with like half as much energy. A bit like Saint and Sinner. It's I do think it's better than Saint and Sinner, kind of mainly because, there's kind of like a bigger sound palette on it, and the chorus has a lot more of a hook to it. I mean, for Gene, I think it's all right. For Gene, I think it's quite good. Very mid. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the verses from Gene on this one are really poor. On Saint and Sinner, I thought the verses were all right, but here, just his singing sounds so strange. It
really does.
Yeah. However, like the chorus works. I mean, this is stadium, like, a sports game, USA sort of stuff. No, really, you could hear this sounding really great in a sports arena. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I know. I don't think about it like that.
Yeah. I mean, just how simple it is. Again, praise on the drums and guitar work. I especially really like when it comes out of the chorus, there's sort of like this muted guitar, like slowly building back up, like the energy builds up back into the chorus throughout the verse, which I think is really cool. And yeah, what do I think about this song? You can hear that compared to previous albums, there's more like urgency from everybody, including Gene, and this is going back to like their roots in some sense, like rock and roll night sort of songwriting.
It's more of a rallying
in terms
cry.
of like simplicity.
It's more of an anthemic
exactly.
rallying cry, and that's something actually to be fair, we haven't actually seen from them in a while. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Unless you count Under the Rose as one of those, but for a long time, we haven't had this kind of rock and roll all nighghts or
that's the best one.
But you haven't had those kind of rock and roll all night shout it out loud or anything like that. So yeah. It's nice.
Which they do well with. Like they're not that bad at it. There's a reason why they're quite successful with it. I think this might be my favorite Gene track on the album. I might need to think about that a bit more. I think it's just okay. It does what it needs to do. Rock. Danny?
It's innocent. It reminds me of the sort of thing us three used to write in our first bands we were in. In secondary school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, especially the chorus.
It's very it's very Tenacious D, isn't it?
Yeah, without the irony.
Without the irony.
Of the satire. Yeah. I laughed as soon as he started singing. It just sounds like he's being strangled. It's very Gene in every way. Another nice high from him just before the chorus, though. I mean, these aren't lovely, like Paul rasps, but just technically, it is peculiar and I have to say impressive that he could do that he could hit those notes. Similarly to, like you were saying, Alexei, to Saint and Sinner, it's like I prefer this to other Gene plot songs for sure. I'll take this any day. Another riffy non-guitar solo middle section. I think there's something of a guitar solo comes in, and it goes on a bit. But for Gene, that's very up there as far as choruses go. Even though, like I say, it's very innocent. But in a way, that's its charm. I think that's what he does best. When he's not being pretentious and trying to do something
that's
big.
What I was trying to say.
Yeah. Also, like, you know, it goes back as well to what we were saying about what kind of heaviness do you want from them. You want that kind of heaviness. You know, you want that kind of Jack Black style, you know, campy, over the top heaviness. You know, you don't want ISIS or like Pelican or something like that. You know, you want that.
Yeah, I agree. But that's really all I have to say about it. It's fine. Next.
Brilliant. Moving on, we've got Danger. Give Me Danger by Paul. Who should go first? Danny, why don't you start this one?
All right. It starts off with more riffage, which is exactly what we've been asking for. It's like Creatures of the Night again. The title track, I mean. We've got some very almost plagiarizing themselves with the Love Gun guitar harmonies. The sort of
right, yeah.
thing. It's almost exactly the same, if not the same. I wrote, this sounds like a single, and then I put, have I heard this? And I have. I don't remember this from your house, Alexis, but maybe I have. Anyway, I definitely recognize this chorus. This is ridiculous, and I like it.
I agree. I completely agree.
That's what I wrote.
It smashes through, you know, being completely like ridiculous, you know, being like so over the top, so much and so intense that it actually punches through into good. It's so ridiculous. It becomes.
It really does, and it's. Yes, and it's different to Under the Rose, which is that's more. It goes into like.
Funny.
Some weird avant-garde territory. Yeah. It's just, well, this is actually like I was rocking out to this.
I think Under the Rose sounds like it could be from like a South Park episode.
Yeah, that's so true. Even the voice.
Or something like that. This isn't like that.
No. Okay. Little negatives. The drums are too much. For me, it is just too much, even in a ridiculous sense. I can't defend that. I do think it's interesting to hear the idea of heavy drums evolve. Like with this, at this time in music history, we're still trying to really pin down what that means. Because heavy, it sounds right to make them really like big and reverberant. But actually, when you listen to, especially like modern, very high production level metal, that sounds really powerful and punchy, it's the opposite of this sort of drum sound. And frankly, call me of my generation, but that's what I like more than this stuff. But this is just the campy over-the-top chorus that I need from Kiss. This chorus, this is one of their best choruses. It's so funny and fun and
with the high vocals as well. It's very Queen.
Yeah.
The pulse.
Yeah. And much like the title track again, with its energy, we're getting not just guitar solo, but we're getting just moments of shred everywhere. Just in and out. He's just having these little licks and these flourishes. It's, again, just stuff Ace could not have dealt with. I hate saying it, but he would not have been able to pull this stuff off. Again, I reiterated on subsequent listens, the drums are exhausting at this point. I'm struggling with the drums, but that's not unique to this track. That's just becoming a theme with the album. Still, Paul's vocals, plus shredding guitars, plus an overall just ripping metal sound that they've got here. It's really of its time in a good way in terms of the songwriting, not so much in terms of the production. It's instantly more gripping than the last 3 songs. It's really, this should be... I don't want to jump to my conclusion, but to me, this album has... No, I'll leave that to the conclusion. It's been in my head a lot, this song. It's very catchy. I've been singing it for weeks. And that's pretty much it. There's some lovely, fast, and frankly, messy chromatic runs in the solo towards the end, but not in a bad way. It's all part of the chaos of this whole... the production level is bigger and in many ways better, generally better. You can hear there's more money on this whole album. And in a way, more sort of professional production, just because it's what people did at the time. But at the same time, it's a very messy album in good ways and bad ways. I suppose all of their stuff has been... So, anyway, it's a different way, though. Yeah, it's just noisy, this album. But yeah,
noisy
really
is a good way
song.
Of putting it. Noisy in a good way.
Yeah. As far as the chorus goes, I'm just loving this. It's so ridiculous. Alexei, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree, man. It's another banger. It's an absolute banger. The crescendo into the chorus showcases just what a fucking kick-ass singer Paul is. Like, there's so many, so many great raspy highs on this one. Like, even if maybe the songwriting isn't necessarily the best on this, but I do agree the chorus is very good. But, like, even if the songwriting maybe isn't him at his best, the performance that he gives is so fucking great. Again, his performance on this whole album, I think, is the best he's done, hands down. Again, maybe if you don't think the songwriting's great, you have to admit his performance on this album, front to back, I think is fucking brilliant. Like, he just sounds furious. Like, it's ridiculous. The final pre-chorus, like crescendo, building into the last chorus, where he's just screaming, "Man!" at the top of his lungs. There, and then there's a break, and then the 2 hits. Man, I was like, "Fuck, that's fantastic!" Like, the execution, like, yeah, it's dumb, admittedly, but the execution is fucking ferocious as hell. It's absolutely great. One of the best on the album. Fantastic. Alex, what do you think?
You were having a go there at the songwriting. I think for this one it works because, like, this, it's so ridiculous sounding. It's such a cartoon of a song, and the lyrics actually match up pretty well. Like, I wrote down here, I really love, "Give me measures of pleasure and pain, boiling the blood in my veins." Like, it's so stupid, but it works. I think it totally works for this one. And I agree with Danny. It's stupidly catchy. Even though I think overall I might prefer, like, Creatures of the Night or songs, but this one was just stuck in my head, and I just kept on thinking about it. And like you guys were saying, just Paul's over the top vocals, and like, he's got that lovely rasp, like we've all been saying, but also like the backing singers, you can hear them; they're just hitting these awesome notes, and it's metal as hell. I think it's great. I can't really add anything to what you guys have added. Very similar to the first track in terms of just energy, and yeah, really great. And Mike, it's so unbelievably camp. I love it when they get like this.
yeah, 100%. Next track, "Love It Loud" or "Love It Out Loud." I've written "Love It Out Loud," but I don't think that that's called that. I think it's called just "Love It Loud." I mean,
I love it loud.
Yeah, I was like, I love it loud. Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, meh. After Danger, again, it's I just think it's kind of like the same sort of strutty, trying to be anthemic shit as, you know, Sainted Sinner and Rock and Roll Hell. Like, it's all right. I'm amazed this was the lead single. Like, absolutely amazed. Like, over Danger and over Creatures of the Night, over the title track, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I think partly it's got to do with the fact that they're going for a heavier sound and Gene's the heaviest looking. So they're like, okay, lead singer, we'll put him front and center. Like, it'll play better, but it just over those two songs is just fucking ridiculous. But yeah, it's all right. I mean, they, the like the hook when it's just the drums and then a couple of hits on the guitars before the solo does sound like massive. But I just don't think his voice can quite pull it off because, it's just too weak and anemic. Like, it always sounds like he's pushing it and it never quite kind of fills that bombastic space that it needs to. But yeah, I mean, it's all right. It's okay. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with it. It's such an odd choice to have Rock and Roll Hell, Danger, and then this one, because for me, this is very similar to Rock and Roll Hell in terms of like what they're trying to go for. Obviously, it being like a Gene style song, but just those very much like saying like arena rock sort of anthem tracks. They're very similar in that sense. But this one doesn't work as well as Rock and Roll Hell, in my opinion. Even it does sound huge, but it's not as catchy. And yeah, it didn't quite work for me. I like the chorus being like, where it says right between the eyes, which is, does he mean like his brain? I don't quite get what he's going for there. Is that what he's going for? He wants, okay. For me, like, the imagery doesn't quite work. Yeah, not much to it. And then also, it's definitely not a song that deserves to be this long and then have a fade out and a fade in. Like, it's definitely not good enough for that. Really weird choice there that we haven't seen so far from them. It's fine. Sounds very, like, corporate and, like, it sounds like it'll be for an advert. But nothing else really to it. Don't hate it though. Danny?
Yeah, man, what the fuck is that fade back that they do? That is just why?
Yeah,
why?
they've not earned that
cheap?
at all. Not earned it at all.
Not at all. I don't know, man. Alex, you mentioned like American Sports Stadium. This made me think that more than any track on this album. He has the opposite of an ear for melody. You know how some people just really have it and they know what's like a hook, what's gonna really be an earworm or something. He's got the opposite of that. It's messy, it's grating, shitty chanting at the start. The lyrics are shitty. And like I wrote, I'm sorry. I know I am being mean actually at this point. Like it feels like I am just like I'll even admit I am treating him differently. But it's his voice. His voice does it. I can't help it. It doesn't matter at this point how much improvement he is making. I can't tell because his voice is so shit. I do think it's more than that. I mean, just compare this to the last track.
Oh yeah,
compare it to the last track.
It's a terrible follow-up.
It's really not good. I think the only good thing I can think of is this sort of, We Will Rock You chanty, anthem song does allow room for the sort of drums on this album more, though. So in a way, the drums fit better on this track than a lot of others, just because the arrangement's so thin that there isn't much going on in terms of other instruments. So there's room for the drums on this one.
Oh, and by the way on that, I forgot to mention, like, Danny, what you were saying with the last track about getting, like, ear fatigue, like, exhausted. This was a track where every time I went through it, I was like, oh, okay, I need to take a break.
Yes.
Yeah, this was the one for me.
Yeah, it's not great. Sorry, Gene. Let's move on.
Right.
Shit.
I Still Love You by Paul. It's a Paul one. Okay. I think this is like blinding. I think Paul sounds like he is. I think Paul sounds like he's splitting the sky in half. Like the lyrics are cliched.
Yeah.
But there is a sort of tragic quality to his delivery that I think feels kind of sincere adjacent. I just think he kind of knows how to sell it a little bit. There's a lyric where he goes like, "Oh, and when the smoke clears away," and I was like, "Oh, kind of feel for him a little bit." But I think that's because he knows exactly which lines to enunciate for dramatic effect. having said that, he definitely prioritized the music over the lyrics with this one, like 100%. I feel like the drums sound like the world's ending. They sound fucking enormous. The bluesy guitar solos, like, I think are just really tasty and soulful and almost kind of David Gilmour-esque, which I think fits the track really, really well. I just think his vocals on this are just fucking incredible. Like, this is the last that we see of him on this record, and when you think that he can't sort of push, because when you think that he can't push himself even more, like he did on Danger, like, you know, when you think he can't like push himself even more, and then we get to the final chorus where he just lets out like his final scream, and it just sounds like he's being like ripped in half. Like, it's a real sort of, like, for me, I don't know, I felt it was like a real kind of punch the air sort of moment. I was like, yes, like you're being proper musicians. Like, it's like and for the record, like, you know, for the record, I want to say, like, this is Paul's best album by far for me, hands down. Like, there's also an MTV unplugged version of this song where his singing is like even better than it is on this one. I mean, this again, along with Creatures, I would actually think this is probably one of my favorite Kiss songs. You know, I just think it's great. I think it's epic. I think it's, you know, it's tragic. And again, almost like what Danny was saying with Danger, it's almost so melodramatic. And in that way that, again, it punches through the cliche and becomes good to me. You know, what do you guys think? Danny, what do you think?
Wow. Once again, like, I wrote lots of good stuff, but I'm afraid you're going to make me have to lean into the negative, Alexei. I do not think it's close to the best Kiss song that we've had. I thought the title gave away the ballad, which I liked. I kind of saw it coming. And there is certainly, you know, a place for this song on this album. There's room. And I think we've said things about that on other albums before, how, like, you know, they should do downers or, you know, slower moments, things like that.
This is like the first sad Kiss ballad, right? I think. Oh no, Beth's kind of sad, I guess. Well, yeah, this is more.
But it's such a different song to Beth.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I know you.
Yeah, I started listening and I thought, this is ripe to kick off. So far, just fine. And then I thought, holy moly, good, because it does kick off. I love, what I will agree with Alexei on is, I love the insane, ridiculous, over-the-top drums in the chorus that are just so loud. It's like the album reaches its drum sound peak at that moment, and I just have to relish it. You have to let that wash over you, and it's brilliant. It's just so ridiculously loud, those fills that he's doing. And they do sound great. I think that works. It builds to the chorus very well with the tension. Of course, especially Paul's vocals. I wrote nice chord. I think I should have been more specific there. I don't know which chord I was referring to there. What I did right, though, and I guess Alexei will disagree, would just love it to also be a sick chorus. It's not a great hook. It's not even much of a hook or a melody. Right. I think you'd agree, Alexei, that
it's more of a
his
cry
vocals
for
are
help.
carrying it. Right. But, yeah, I see that. But to me, it's not. I don't feel that. I'm clearly not feeling that on a level that you are. I think it's great just because I love Paul's vocals, but I'm not feeling that the cry that you're feeling. I love the last one, the really long love you that he does at the end. I thought, finally a good breakdown. I liked the breakdown. I don't like that sort of guitar solo at all, and I was waiting for it to erupt into a shred fest, but it didn't, so I was a bit disappointed by that. Maybe that's just me being just a teenager about it. I just want some shred. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that David Gilmour crap on a Kiss album, for God's sake. So, I think I've mostly said positive things here. However, yeah, I don't think this is close to... Like, I much prefer Danger to this, and I much prefer the title track to this. This is certainly the better end of the album, though. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I was really surprised about this one on the first listen. Like, I didn't expect this to come from this album. Like, for all the tracks we've heard so far, I felt I had a grasp on where they were going to go with it, and they're sort of, okay, we're going to stick into this sort of lane. But for them to do a ballad in this way, which we don't get from them often, and, you know, they're fully committing to it. Like, you know, it's 6 minutes long, which I think is the longest track we've had so far.
Oh, could be.
Maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Thinking. And they really go for it, and they take their time with it, which I really like. Just from the beginning, when there's sort of like that the sort of metal sounding scales are playing on the guitar, I think it's really cool and ominous, and it builds and builds and builds. I agree with everything you guys are saying about Paul. Sounds amazing, and yes, lyrically, this is very sort of straight to the point. You can say childish if you want, or whatever, but for me, it works because of just how good it sounds and how much they help. They put the emphasis on Paul. I particularly love that last chorus where it like slows down for a second. I'm not sure quite what to call it, but the still, and they take an extra beat.
Oh, the
love
pause,
you, and it comes back in. Yeah. Really great touch, really, which they haven't done in the past. Yeah, I wrote about the drums as well, like you guys are saying. It sounds so hollow, but for this, it really works out massive. And the fills are crazy. Like, they're so ridiculous, but I love them. Yeah, just so over the top. This might be one of my favorite. Like, I'm trying to think it is my favorite, or maybe kind of second.
I think this is the most, like, I think, you know, I was talking about, like, you know, this being one of my favorites. It is one of my favorites. But I would say of all their music, I think this is the most impressive that they've sounded. Like, if I were going to be like... Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, if I, you know, maybe not personal taste, but if I was like...
Love Gun.
Love Gun as well. Love Gun's up there as well. I'd say Love Gun, all this.
Yeah.
I'd say that, like, you know, if I was going to be like, because, you know, even something like 100,000 Years is quite scrappy. Do you know what I mean? It's kick-ass, but it's still a bit scrappy. Like, if I was going to be like, all right, so someone's like, you know, what's a good song by Kiss? And I was like, well, something with like finesse and polish that shows that actually, no, they can be quite mature songwriters musically, maybe not lyrically, but musically, I'd probably show them this.
Yeah, I'm really surprised this works.
That's where I disagree. I don't think that at all. I think
Love Gun as well.
Many other tracks more like. I think Black Diamond is more like that than this. I think Danger's more like that than this. I think that's what makes the world go round. I'd play them that and be like, tell me this isn't a fucking bang. Sorry.
I mean, you're right.
It's a good song. Yeah, it is. Alex, sorry, continue.
No, I don't have much more to say on it. Like, I'm surprised how well this works. I think if you told me what this was before going into it, it's going to be a 6-minute ballad from Paul, I would have been like, oh man, it's going to be like just so up his own ass, and it just could be. Usually when they write long songs, they can't justify the length at all. But this one, they managed to do it. They really managed to do it. So again, really surprised, but in a great way.
Right.
All right.
Killer. I don't know. Danny, what do you think?
But come on.
In it.
Come on, Gene.
Following I Still Love You as well. Do you know what I mean? But I mean,
exactly,
like, you know,
yeah. Which...
regardless of what you know, I mean, I know you said you like it, but you know, like, you know, you end on that massive, like, you know, it's all songs like crumbling apart. It's like the world's ending. Yeah, the tone, and then you just hear chug, you're like, for fuck's sake. You're gonna follow. You gotta follow that with that. It's ridiculous. Sorry, carry on.
I wrote so little for this. I put even the solo sounds like he's struggling. I don't know who played on this one. The solo's not good on this one. It's the worst track on the album. I stopped paying attention every time I heard it.
Yeah, same.
Was it Vinny?
Well, yeah, that's what it sounds.
It's probably.
Vinny co-wrote this one as well.
Okay. I just put it's the same old shit. Like, it's the same old Gene shit with reverb and comically loud drums. It was just becoming funny, the drums. It's he's moved from plod to Motorhead minus any charm, any sense of charm, gone. That's everything I wrote about it. It's nothing this was. Easily the worst on the album. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I was nice to Gene on Satan Sinner, even though it was a downgrade from the track before. But this one, like I say, it really kills any atmosphere that was built up or any momentum. Like we're still in unbelievably camp territory. I think like this song is camp, but not in a as fun way as some of the other tracks before. Like every time I would hear the literal crack of a whip when he says whip in his song, it would make me laugh. It's so stupid. You were literally in the background, whoosh, which is such a stupid touch. But yeah, his singing, oh my god, so much. In this track where he's like, run for your life, it just sounds awful. Sounds awful. And just forgettable. Me and Dan was saying this just before we came on. Like this was a track every time I was like, wait, which one's killer? I really can't pick anything from it.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. Consistently.
I think I'll agree. Worst track of the lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, just following "I Still Love You" with this is just like, no thanks. Why? It's ridiculous. Worst on the album, very forgettable. A very, very poor follow-up to "I Still Love You." Yeah, worst on the album, a bit shit. Not like bin-worthy, just a bit shit. Very, very.
No, not bin-worthy, no.
Not bin-worthy, but very forgettable. Like, very, very forgettable. I just can't believe that they didn't think this was like, I don't know, like why they were like, because I think this is quite clearly like not of the same quality as a lot of the other stuff on the album. I thought like, oh yeah, we could just sort of lose this. Do you know what I mean? It feels like a B-side. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't really see why they thought that. Like, you know, it's almost like they're just trying to fill the runtime. Anyway, last track is War Machine. I think this is kind of tricky, right? Because I like this. I think this is a good song, right? I think the riff is sick. I think this finally has Gene sounding like the demon. Like he actually sounds like the demon in the song. It sounds like he's got a lot more malicious intent with his delivery, and that just suits his aesthetic way, way, way better. Again, like it does seem like he's taking notes from Paul. Like he's trying to push his vocals a little bit more and enunciate certain lines, being a bit more dramatic, not the kind of same monotone, warbly sort of self that he normally is. He sounds like he's kind of more, you know, diving into the lyrics with a bit more ferocity and a bit more melodrama, which is quite nice for him to hear. Quite nice to hear. I think the guitar solo is great. It's very, very kind of soaring. It sounds a bit like a jet taking off, which I think suits the track really, really well. And it's not exactly what you'd sort of expect from a track like this. I think it's kind of cool. I think the drums just sound mint on this one. I think they probably, of all the tracks, suit this one the best. All the noises at the end sound really, really cool. I love all the flange effects and the dive bombs and stuff. It starts to get a bit chaotic. Maybe not chaotic enough for the closer. I think if it's going to be the closer, it should be just going fucking, off in all directions. But it's good enough. But yeah, good. As a closer, I don't know whether it would have. I don't know if I Still Love You probably would have been a better closer, but that seems like the obvious choice. Or even the title track might have been a sick closer, but then again, it's an amazing opener. So fuck that. It's better as an opener. But yeah, it's good. It's good. I like it. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, isn't it? Like the sound is very, like it's very different. Like they fully went for that like massive reverb sound here. I think at times it might be too much. Like I think there's quite a good riff here. I mean, it's a very simple riff, but it's straight to the point. But I don't mind it. But it is just like there's so much reverb on it. that I sometimes wish had a bit more punch. It sounds very Metallica, and I had to Google when Metallica like came about because I was like trying to figure out where it fits in that timeline. I think this is actually a really good effort from Gene. This kind of song, like I say, it fits his character really well, and it, like we said even today, like simplicity works for him, and it is really simple, and just like the line "War Machine" just fits him really well.
It's almost like a novelty song in a way. You know, I mean, particularly that sentiment, like I'm a war machine. Like it's not hooky. It's kind of more of a statement. It's kind of more of a novelty, and I think that works better than trying to write hooks. Do you know what I mean? Just create a vibe instead.
Yeah, and it's worked. It works better here than some of the other sort of kind of novelty-esque songs we've had in the past. I can't remember some of the names. I remember some of them.
Well, it's like God of Thunder, for example. Do you know what I mean? Doctor Love.
I remember God of Thunder.
Doctor Love feels like a novelty song to me, and I think it works better than that. I'd rather him sound evil or try to sound evil and more or less get away with it than trying to sound like a sort of Casanova character, because I think he bombs fucking hard.
Absolutely.
To do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a really interesting direction for them. I think I'd like to see Gene move more in this direction going forward. I don't think he does. And I haven't really wrote that much about it. I think I quite like this one. I think Alexei, like I said, it's not a great closer. But looking at the other ones, I'm not sure what would be. So yeah,
I think if they'd made it, if they made it noisier at the end, with all the kind of like dive bombs and crazy guitar effects and stuff like that, I think they could have gotten away with it a bit better. But I don't know, it just kind of goes out on a bit of a whimper.
I think if they kind of did like a Black Diamond sort of thing with it towards the end, it would have been really cool, like I say. But I didn't get that. Danny, what do you think on it?
I remember Alexei liking this one. I don't know if I'm misremembering that.
I did. This, by the way, this is the first Kiss song I ever heard in my life. By the way, the very first one.
There you go.
Where did you hear it?
I googled Kiss. Oh no, I went onto YouTube. It was either YouTube or Yahoo. Oh, was it Yahoo Video? Or was it Google Video? I can't remember. I don't think Yahoo Video is a thing. But I went onto YouTube and I typed in Kiss band, and there was a live performance of them playing, and this was the song that they were playing. And Paul Stanley went,
what made
"This
you...
is one of Creatures of the Night, War Machine." Sorry, what are you saying?
What made you search Kiss if you hadn't heard a song from them? Where did you...
The Rock School, the TV show. So Gene Simmons did a reality TV show called Rock School, and I don't think they played like any Kiss music in it that I can remember. There's a bit where he like plays a song to them that he, like Rock and Roll All Night or God Gave Rock and Roll to You on a guitar. But I was like curious because I was like, oh, he looks, because again I saw him in it like spitting blood and stuff, and I was like, who the fuck is that? That's so sick. I can't believe something like that exists. That's so sick. And then like looked it up, and then this came up. That was like the first one. Was a live video of them doing War Machine. Yeah, and I was hooked ever since. And then it would just be a history of me like buying albums by them, listening to them one time, and going, oh, and then being like, there's like one or two tracks that I liked, and then being like, oh, the rest of it's a bit rubbish. Anyway, carry on, Danny.
I instantly thought these are good vocals for Gene. Very good for Gene. I got Captain Howdy vibes by Twisted Sister.
Oh yeah, good shout.
To this song. The sort of I'm so evil sound that it's going for, which I didn't write it down, Alexei, but I completely agree with what you're saying about this is him being the demon that we want him to be. The mix is a mess. I don't like anything about the mix, really. It's just, maybe I was just getting tired of the album, like it really was the listening fatigue was getting to me. It's too full on, it's muddy. I thought the solo was a bit masturbatory, Alexei, but then again, it might just be the last track. I was just getting sick of the shred, maybe, at this point. It's just so him just showing what he can do. Whichever of the many guitarists was playing on this one.
Not being able to self-edit.
However,
that was Vinny, I believe.
Is it Vinny on this one? That checks out. Because, again, technically very impressive. Nothing Ace could touch, technically. Anyway, it's like if he has to plod, then this is how to do it. This is like a toddler march in a good way. I mean that in a good way. I thought, imagine if he had never sung before, and then they decide to end the album with this. We'd be defending the fuck out of it.
Oh,
we'd be
yeah,
like,
definitely.
Whoa, Gene's finally singing, and he's coming out with this.
Yeah.
By my second listen, I am sure this is the best Gene song by a mile. And I mean that. Both his vocal performance and songwriting are the top of where they've ever been. This is what God of Thunder should have been.
100%.
I think I'll be surprised if we ever get a Gene song better than this. I think, again, look, and it's not the best track on the album. It's probably like third or fourth, in my opinion. But that's high for Gene. Looking at his track record.
Really good.
I think this is brilliant. I think good job, Gene. And that's the big ending to this album for me. Good job, Gene. That's big.
I think this might be the first time we have all been in agreement and said, yeah, that was a good Gene song. Because Danny, you didn't like Naked City. I didn't like Dr. Love.
Not much.
And Danny, you didn't like Watching You, but me and Alex liked Watching You. I'm pretty sure, I might need to check it. This is the first time all three of us have gone, you know what? That was a good Gene song.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Love, you didn't like Alexei. Me and Alex like Dr. Love a bit.
No, I see. I didn't like Dr. Love. There's also Watching You. Me and Alex like Watching You. Danny, you didn't like Watching You. We like Naked City. Danny, you did not like Naked City. I'm pretty sure there's another one somewhere.
I like the chorus to Sweet Pain, but you guys weren't as bothered. Yeah, you're right.
I think Sweet didn't Sweet Pain get like an okay from all of us? Like, it's all right, but this is like good. This is a good song.
Yeah, this is a good song,
and we owe it all to Bryan Adams. Thank you, Bryan.
That's him.
You got the best.
My boy.
Well done, Bryan. Album overall. I think this is by far the closest to the Kiss that we want, or at least the Kiss that I want out of any record so far. It's a lot heavier. They, regardless of whether you think it's a good album or a bad album, they definitely succeeded on the mission of intent, which was to make a heavier album. They did. This is easily the heaviest album they've come out with. The playing is so much more ferocious than on other albums. It's a lot tighter, and the music's just a lot darker, and that's what you want. But dark, not dark to the point where it's po-faced and you go like, oh, come on. Don't try to act above your station here. Do you know what I mean? Because that's not you. But it's camp. It's darker. It's camper. Thematically, it's much better and suits them much better. Paul absolutely carries this album, I think. All his cuts, I think, are of a very high quality. And also, because of the track listing, you don't have to wait that long to hear one. It's not like in other ones where you might get like a Paul song, usually starting the album. It's usually Paul song, then two Gene songs, and then another Paul, and then maybe an Ace one. You consistently get quite a lot of Paul on this. The downside, though, is it does showcase that Gene, even at his best, and he is at his best on this album. He is at his best. It's just nothing on Paul. It's nothing on Paul. It's nowhere near as good as Paul. Like, again, the best track on this is War Machine, and I don't think the War Machine is as good as any of Paul's cuts. Really, I think at times it comes kind of close, but I don't think it's any as good as his as his cuts. Having said that, nothing he has done on this album or contributes to this album is going in the bin. Nothing. Mostly from him, it's very mid with one good track. One kind of bad track, two mid tracks, three mid tracks, and one good track. Paul, on the other hand, absolutely crushes it. I think he's at 100% at his best on this album. And it shows that how strong a vocalist he really is. And in that way, I think this goes at the top for me. The production is a lot. Like, it's a lot. It's really sort of like maxed out and big and huge, and that does get a lot at times. But I still think it sounds a lot better than previous Kiss albums. I would take this way over the sound on like Rock and Roll Over, Hotter Than Hell, and Dress to Kill Any Day. And I think Paul absolutely proves that, you know, that at his best, he can be pretty hard to beat, I think, as a performer. I think he had something to prove on this album. I think he proved it very, very well. And I just wished we could have got another cut from him. Another cut or maybe 2 cuts on this album. And they should have lost the Gene song, probably Killer. You know, yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great. Not great, sorry. I think he was great. I think the album overall has quite a lot of mid from Gene, but some great highs from Paul. But for me, this comfortably should go at the top. Danny, what do you think? What are your feelings overall?
Oh, I'm really struggling to... I'm struggling with the conclusion of this one. Yeah, how to sum up this album. Because in some ways, I kind of thought it would be better in some ways. Now, what I mean is, this album's reputation does actually follow it if you've done a bit of reading on Kiss. Right, this is sort of spoken of as the kind of, well, they were kind of really getting heavy on this one in a good way, you know, we're past the Elder, and there's, you know, we've got some real shredding guitars, Paul's at his best in many ways, and there's still, you know, it's still full of not great songs in many ways. I think, even like you said, Alexei, even with Gene, I agree, Alexei, this is the best Gene album we've had ever.
Definitely.
But even with that, these are his moments of, except War Machine, they're still all low moments generally. Rock and Roll Hell's alright. Satan Sinner's alright. I don't like I Love It Loud. I don't like Killer. So, really, although the mix for the time was probably a huge step forward for them, to us, it is so dated. It is such a dated sounding album in a very different way to the albums before it. Now, we've said about them before that sort of, well, it's unfair for us to blame the mix too much. But we've always said the songs aren't there anyway. So the mix is just sort of making them worse. Here we have, it's a little different where the songs that are really on point here, the great songs, the mix is both great and awful at the same time. And it really comes down to listening fatigue and it just being so different to how I would go about complimenting a song as good as Creatures of the Night. But maybe it would lose that early 80s, I'll use the word charm, if you were to get rid of or change the production on it. So I don't want to get too bogged down in that, but just in a general sense, everything is fighting in the mix throughout this album, and it is quite exhausting. It is a very exhausting album because of that. And I'm just speaking sonically. It does have lovely moments. To me, it has 3 high moments, and Gene's one of those tracks. To me, it's quite symmetrical. It's the first track, it's the middle track, and it's the last track.
Yeah.
You guys have swayed me a bit on I Still Love You. I do, you know, that song is pretty good. But apart from that, those tracks I just mentioned, so Creatures of the Night, Danger, and War Machine, and sort of I Still Love You, these are not fantastic songs, and it's a lot of filler. It's really an album of filler with a few good songs. It's how I feel about this. Now, it does, and this would sound so offensive to Kiss fans, I think we've even mentioned Lordi before, about how they should kind of sound like Lordi. Because really, Lordi, and they'd be the first to admit that they're probably heavily influenced by Kiss.
Yeah, definitely.
But look, I'm a bigger Lordi fan than I am a Kiss fan, so that's how I'm wording it. Apologies. This is the most Lordi album we've had yet. It's these big, fun choruses, and it's heavy pop music. It's pop music with a metal aesthetic to it, which is what I think Kiss should be doing. And they're pioneering it on this album. They're pioneering that sound. It's you know, it's really pop hooks, especially stuff like Danger, but with a really fun, heavy sheen to it. I started to think it's as if Kiss are a unique band in that they became at their best more than once now. They've been at their best creatively the more they sell out.
Yeah.
Because I agree.
Right? It's like and I think we're going to see more of that because I know a bit about Crazy Nights. And,
definitely.
You know, that's right. I don't want to give too much away, but I think it's interesting to analyze them in that way. The more they try, you know, look at what we said about Unmasked and Dynasty too, to a lesser extent. We like for the most part, these sellouts. I'm doing sellout with inverted commas. But they are. But they're also better songs than the crap that was on Hotter Than Hell. So it's as if we're balancing. We're going between like the sort of the loss of the charm of old Kiss, which to me exists, but it's not that much. I do like the idea of Peter and Ace. I love those guys, the little four. I've got little bits of already of nostalgia for the original four because there's this fun thing about the band and what they're trying to do. Yeah. But we're watching them lose more and more of that raw, personality-filled music. But we're seeing better songwriting as they do that. And the more they lean into chasing trends, sometimes they do come out with some good stuff. And metal was on the rise here. And they are so, as we've said before, we said it even back at Destroyer, they're leaning into the way that pop metal is going, especially towards the mid and late 80s, what we're going to see with bands like Bon Jovi and Poison. Kiss were there at the beginning. That's their claim on rock history. So here, I said I didn't write a lot for the conclusion, and here I am just talking about it in this way. But I hope I'm making it clear that actually this is a very difficult one for me to rank. Because I see what Alexei means when he says it should be at the top, but I'm not sure. It should be high. To me, this shouldn't be lower than top 3 or 4. Alex, what do you think? Sorry, I said way more than I thought I was going to say.
No, it's good. Firstly, I agree with you guys about Paul. Like, give me whatever he was having during this time because the guy had like he had energy and he really wanted to show what he could do, and it paid off. Like saying those 3 tracks, are awesome. Danger, I Still Love You, and Creatures of the Night really, really carry this album. Even though the songwriting, like we're saying, is not consistent, this is, I think, probably the most cohesive album in terms of like how it sounds sonically, and it is a double-edged sword because it's nice to have like an album from them that has like its own character and it has its own sound, and I think that's really interesting. However, the particular sound they went for is exhausting, and I can see how this would work in a particular like setup, like, and I mean, have a like speaker setup or something. I can totally see it working live. I think a lot of these tracks, even the not so as good ones, for like Keep Me Coming or something, I think would probably be an awesome live song. So I really like that about the album, that it is cohesive and it's not like this. We had a go at Gene for like, it sort of kills the momentum a little bit, but it wasn't like on previous albums where it would really like you'd get whiplash from like one of Peter's songs and Gene's song and then an Ace song. It was like this really like weird switch, and overall I think that's a positive. And again, if we talked about, I think with Unmasked, which we put at number 1, the average is very high with this one. And I think so, yeah. Think, like Alexei is saying, it's the highest so far. And I think it's amazing that we finally get the one Gene track that we all really like and we think really suits him. And we're not really talking about it because there are 2 or 3 other tracks that we really, really like that we think are way beyond it. And I think that goes to show that I think overall this one's pretty good. This one, I agree, Lexi, it should go to the top of the list.
I mean, when you think,
I would like to hear an argument Danny White should go below Unmasked. I'm gonna have a look at the Unmasked track listing now because
I can give a reason,
I liked it.
But frankly, I'm not willing to defend this that much, and I think I'm just gonna agree with you guys. Basically, Unmasked, maybe it's to do with that era for Kiss, Unmasked and Dynasty. I like it's a sort of transition between the 2 parts of Kiss where we're getting a feeling for the full 4 members. Actually, Unmasked, not 4 members, but there's a lot more Ace on Unmasked, and there's a lot of Paul. It's got What Makes the World Go Round. which is
It does
better.
have that.
Which is better than any Kiss song ever. Still, I'm sticking by that one. And I just like that. Again, I've got, even if it's a small sense of, I've got a small sense of nostalgia for the old team. And I like hearing Ace songs against Paul songs because they're so different. I like that it's jarring. But you know what? Hearing myself talk about this, I'm not defending this heavily, am I? I'm not saying, no, it has to be higher. So I'm perfectly happy to put Creatures above it. Perfectly happy because everything we've said about it.
Fantastic.
Looking at a track listing for Unmasked now, yeah, there are some good ones, but I think you put them head to head with Creatures of the Night, it wouldn't win.
Yeah. I think as well with Unmasked, there is an element of, despite the fact that this is not how you would like them to sound or want them to sound, it's still got some good shit on it. This you can at least say has got, it's a similar thing where it's, with this, if I were to sum up this album, I'd say, oh, it's got some really good shit on it. That's kind of it, really. And it also sounds like how you want them to sound, or at least as close to how you want them to sound as possible, and probably will get. Like, this is the last, but bear in mind, this is the last album with makeup till Psycho Circus, way down the line. So in terms of them, like, I guess, riding that sort of first wave before they, before the Unmasked era, when they take the makeup off, this is the only time they've ever sounded like how you would like them to sound. Like, to me, that's amazing. So essentially, this is it. It probably won't get any closer than that, unless you count like the second run when they came back, Psycho Circus, and then Sonic Boom and Monster. But in terms of that, like, actually them sort of coming out of that initial period, this is it.
Yeah, I agree. I guess it should be number one. Yeah.
I'm writing it in.
Yeah.
Let's put it in as number one.
Oh my god.
Cool. So
Number
next
one.
week.
Wow.
Well done, guys.
Sorry, I'm going to have
Number one. And next time we lick it up. What should we end on? What song should we sing to end on? I guess it probably should be Danger, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be Danger.
Yeah,
the words.
True.
Danger.
Danger.